To Society Girl Saves the World. Today's topic of discussion is a film that was released in the summer of 2002 by the name of BILLA. It stars Meera, Lucky, Saud, Nargis, Shafqat, Cheema, Raheela, Agha and Asif Khan in a role that if you blink, you might miss him altogether. The film is produced, written and directed by a man called Tanveer Ahmed, who must admit I've never heard of before, and the music is by veteran music director Tafo. In the opening shots of this movie, we see a bereft-looking villager looking longingly towards the distant town from her rustic village as a train goes rattling by. She wipes clean a photograph of a rather handsome young man with an impressive 70s pop star hairstyle reminiscent of the Bay City Rollers, if anyone remembers them. We soon learn that the woman's name is Fahmida and she yearns for her son who left her 6 years ago, never to return even for a single visit. A well-wishing relative advises her to give up on the hope of his return and stop wasting her energy on something that's never going to happen. After all, he reminds her, the son was the cause of her own husband's suicide and was undoubtedly a bad egg best forgotten. Fahmida doesn't seem to be that convinced though.
Fahmida bhai, apne putter de aun da rasta dekh rahi. 6 saal ho gaye ne, oh wapas nahi aaya. Bhul ja onu, te nale us putter lai ki pagal hona, jine tere kolo tera swag kho lita howe. Jehda bachcha ek baar jurm di duniya ch chala jaye, oh wapas ghar kadi nahi aunda. Kadi nahi aunda.
In the next shot, we are introduced to a lecherous-looking, leering KD who is clad in an outfit that is clearly inspired by Michael Jackson's 80s look, including the rather impressive shiny black gloves.
Mere hath kaale, meri zaban kaali, jo main kehna ho jata hai.
The next scene cuts to a saucy mujra with 3 buxom beauties wiggling their wares in front of a bunch of drunken fat men, but the fun is abruptly ended with a burst of gunfire as the man from Fahmida's photograph enters the scene and the corpses drop like flies. The killer then proceeds to stare rather chillingly at his victims with a wide-eyed look and his mouth agape, while the killer's theme music plays chillingly in the background. In the very next shot, we have Asif Khan, a newly elected minister, being paid a visit by the local DSP, who warns him that there's a great threat to his life because of his honest reputation. And just as Asif Khan states that he has no enmity with anybody, once again BILLA arrives and guns down the DSP along with his posse and the minister as well. And once again, he marvels over his bloodshed with his trademark gaping look as BILLA's theme plays on in the background. In a career that lasted many decades, this surely is one of the briefest roles that Asif Khan has ever had, with barely seconds of screen time. The next morning, a grinning KD is seen taking extreme delight in the newspapers describing the mass murder perpetrated by his favourite accomplice. The police convene for an urgent meeting, and in their utter confusion there are calls for the highly reputed and fearless officer Iqbal Khan to be handed over the case and the responsibility for tracking down the perpetrator and ending this reign of terror.
Sit down. किन्ने शर्म दी गल है पूरे मुल्क की दहशतगर्दी ने जोर फड़िया होया है ते पुलिस डिपार्टमेंट हत्थां ते हत्थ रख के बैठा होया है 12 दी सुर्खी बन गई है दहशतगर्दी
सर ਅਸੀਂ पूरी कोशिश कर रहे हैं
सर दहशतगर्दी खत्म हो सकती है पर आवाम साडा साथ नहीं देंदी
शट अप इकबाल खान नु बुलाओ इकबाल खान तेरी ईमानदारी ते बहादुरी नु वेखदे होया दहशतगर्दां दी ये फाइल मैं तेरे हवाले करना वा
The murderous spree of Billa doesn't show any signs of letting up, and he attacks a group of people watching a mujra once again and guns them down brutally, and then moments later, he heads off for the middle of the city where a political rally is taking place and there's talk of peace and harmony and unity. And in front of the crowd, he guns down the politician, causing a stampede with people scurrying and scampering for their lives. And this is when fate intervenes, and Billa, using a motorbike to make his getaway, finds that the bike does not start and he is apprehended by the police, dragged away to a prison cell, finally incarcerated. A delighted Iqbal Khan, with a chat to the press, claims that Billa is merely a pawn of some kingpin's terror organization supported by the enemy state in order to spread terror and anarchy and mayhem in the land of the pure, and he's now determined more than ever to find out exactly who the source of evil is. But the devilish KD has other plans and is a formidable foe.
किसी गैर मुल्की ताकत एक खास गिरोह दा हथ है जेड़ा साडे मुल्क दे 15 तो लेके 25 साल दी उम्र दे नौजवानां नू बरगला फसला के उन्हां दे हाथ विच कलाशन तोप फड़ा दिंदे ने दहशतगर्दी करांदे ने दुश्मन मुल्क ने तो फायदा चुकना ही है ना
मिस्टर इकबाल खान तुसी पाकिस्तान खुफिया एजेंसी दे मन्ने तन्ने अफसर हो पर ये शर्म दी गल नहीं तुहाडा पुलिस डिपार्टमेंट अजे तक उस गिरोह दा नां पता तक मालूम नहीं कर सकिया
मेरा ते मेरे डिपार्टमेंट दा इस मुल्क च रहन वाले नाल वादा है बहुत जल्द इस जहरीले ग्रुप नु खत्म कर देंगे.
Meanwhile, KD informs Billa's girlfriend Anju, played by Nargis, that there isn't a jail in the country that can contain Billa, and that it's just a matter of time before he's free once again, and she need not fret or waste her energy worrying for her sweetheart. Meanwhile, the courts sentenced Billa to 20 years imprisonment, despite the fact that he's killed scores of people, and hearing this news, his mother Fahmida is inconsolable in her grief. Iqbal Khan now turns to his own girlfriend, the rather dishy and feisty Reshma, played by Meera, who works as a prison warden in a notorious women's jail. Together they hope to form a dynamic duo to conquer the diabolical KD and his army of terrorist killers. Upon their meeting to discuss plans, she tosses aside her uniform and dazzles her boyfriend in a sexy dance number in the fields, showing him how business can be merged with pleasure. The evil KD, meanwhile, is wasting no time arranging for Billa's escape. Elsewhere, the cops discover Billa's mother in a village near Multan and decide to try and extract information from her. Meanwhile, Billa is stretching police and prison warden resources to the maximum, threatening to break out at any moment, and laughing and mocking them as they try and restrain him. Billa's girlfriend Anjuman breaks out into a sizzling dance number in anticipation of her lover's freedom, and indeed by the end of her dance number, the locks of the prison cell go flying and Billa makes good his escape, disguised as a law enforcement officer. The news of the notorious criminal's escape has the media up in arms against Iqbal Khan and his police incompetence, and they trigger large-scale protests against the beleaguered cop.
Sir, ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਇਥੋਂ ਦੇ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਸਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਪੈਗਾਮ ਹੈ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਮੁਜਰਮ ਬਿੱਲੂ ਉਰਫ ਬਿੱਲਾ ਜੇਲ੍ਹ ਚੋਂ ਨਸ ਗਿਆ ਓ ਨੋ
अंजू बिल्ला सरकार दी जेल चो नस गया
बिल्ला जेल चो बाहर आ गया
बिल्ला जेल चो नस गया है ऐसा कौन जिम्मेदार है
तो इकबाल खान या पुलिस फोर्स
इकबाल खान 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 इकबाल खान
बिल्ले नु मैं फड़ के लियावांगी तू हाँ मासी मैं
Reshma now decides it's her time to step up and capture Billa using her beauty as bait. A plan that's fraught with danger. And yet she seems to be making good headway with a seductive song and dance number, but unknown to her, Billa finds her ID card and her cover is blown and the tables are turned as he discovers her plan to capture him. However, Reshma's allure is a potent force and rather than dispense with her, Billa appears to be enraptured by her charms and keeps her as a captive instead. Meanwhile, there are shocking revelations about Billa's mother, and as Iqbal Khan shows her a photograph of herself from the past with her young son Billa and his childhood friend, a boy named Bala.
ਇਹ ਦੇਖੋ ਨਾ ਇਹ ਵੇ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਪੁੱਤਰ ਬਿੱਲੂ
आहो ए मेरा बिल्लू है
ਤੇ ਇਹ ਵੇ ਬਾਲਾ ਉਹਦਾ ਦੋਸਤ ਸੀ ਨਾ
मैं ना दोनों पढ़ाती सा साहब जी
ਆਹੋ ਇਹੋ ਬਾਲਾ ਮੈਂ
लाला
ਚੀਮਾ ਜੀ ਇਕਬਾਲ ਖਾਨ
इकबाल खान
ਆਹੋ ਉਹੀ ਯਤੀਮ ਬਾਲਾ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਹੋਈ ਫੀਸ ਤੇ ਬਿੱਲੂ ਦੀਆਂ ਦਿੱਤੀਆਂ ਕਿਤਾਬਾਂ ਪੜ੍ਹ ਕੇ 8ਵੀਂ ਤੱਕ ਪਿੰਡੋਂ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਆ ਗਿਆ ਤੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਬੜਾ ਅਫਸਰ ਬਣ ਗਿਆ
तू अफसर बन गए
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਉਸੇ ਅਫਸਰ ਨੂੰ ਹੁਣ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਪੁੱਤਰ ਦੀ ਤਲਾਸ਼ ਹੈ
And thus, as the plot begins to thicken in a typical Masala style and matters get further intertwined and entangled before they slowly begin to unravel in sublimely ridiculous style, anyone familiar with the typical Punjabi action potboilers will have a pretty decent idea of how the story will unfold hereafter. All is gradually revealed about how the angelic boy in the picture turned into the mass murderer Billa all those years ago and how Kedi played his devious cards to destroy Fahmida's happy family. All is eventually slowly revealed, and now all that remains is who will survive and what will be left of them. The film is a typical masala-laden concoction of nationalism, righteousness and patriotism, as well as being an obvious vehicle for its star, Lucky, who plays Billa, enjoying the meatiest role of his career. Sadly, the film arrived at a time when Punjabi and Pakistani cinema was in terminal decline, and poor Lucky's luck simply ran out, as films of this type faltered badly at a time of rapidly diminishing box office results. The movie itself is ridiculously over the top, loud and crudely put together, and yet manages to entertain at a very basic level to the most undemanding audience. And though it's completely farcical and typical of a violence-laden bloodbath so common to the majority of Punjabi films of the era, it remains oddly entertaining in spite of its ludicrousness and shoddy presentation. Among the actors, Meera shines as Reshma, delivering a spunky performance and looking at her most attractive, while the rest adequately perform roles they could sleepwalk through due to the familiarity of the script and the histrionics expected of them. The action unravels at a pace and thus manages to fend off the tedium despite the predictable and formula storyline. The film eventually builds to a suitably rip-roaring, asinine climax that is designed to have audiences clapping and cheering in spasms of delight. Billa is hardly a film to recommend, but it's nonsensical and farcical enough to be entertaining at a totally brain-dead level. The film's awfulness somehow rescues it and holds the tedium at bay, if that makes any sense at all. Billa is total bollocks, but at least it doesn't bore its viewer to death and has one or two surprises up its sleeve. Billa is undoubtedly pretty dreadful, but it's this very dreadfulness that somehow saves the day. It's absolutely rotten, but yet somehow still entertaining. And with this, we come to the end of this week's podcast, Society Girl Saves the World. Hope you enjoyed it and you'll be able to join us again in a fortnight's time. Till then, do stay safe. Bye-bye.